It's Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. We are so glad that you could join us here on Song Talk Radio. Here's a little show where we talk about songwriting. We share tips, tricks, and some things we figured out along the way. You share your tips and tricks, and hopefully by the end of this, we all will get a little bit better at writing songs. I'm Phil, and as always, here are my good friends that I talk songwriting with. Over there is Mr. Neil Modi. How you doing, Neil?
Howdy doody. Doing pretty good. Ready to see some tricks, because tricks are good.
And over there is Mr. Michael Proudfoot. How's tricks, Mr. Michael?
Tricks are just fine. Yeah.
That's good.
Being a working man, slaving away, trying not to catch COVID. Busy day.
Very good.
That's 2020 in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Aren't we all?
Our guest today is the Sun Harmonic. That is the stage name for Canadian singer-songwriter Kaleb Hikele. Born and raised in small town of St. Thomas, Ontario, he moved to Toronto in 2009. Currently, he's finishing his next record called Coast to Coast, an album recorded across Canada that will be released sometime in 2021. He was first on our show back in January of 2016, I believe. Welcome back to the show, Kaleb.
Nice to be here, virtually.
Yeah,
Virtually.
great to have you back, Kaleb.
From a distance, from quite a distance.
From quite a distance. Well, you're in Toronto, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. No.
And listeners out there, don't forget, we really love to hear from you, the listener. So why don't you send us an email to feedback@songtalk.ca with any suggestions, comments, or questions on the show. Your emails make us so happy, and we do read each and every one. Coming up, we just got a couple of things to deal with. We're collecting suggestions for the annual Songwriters Gift Guide. Michael, can you talk about that coming up?
Well, I feel a little foolish talking about Christmas before Halloween, but Christmas will be coming in some shape or form. And what we like to do every year here on Song Talk is give you a little help. So either if you're a musician, things to covet, or if you are looking for something to give the musician in your life, then we'll help you out. We offer a couple of ideas in different price points, some of them quite useful, some of them just bizarre. So stay tuned for our Christmas gift giving guide for the songwriter in your life.
Thanks very much. And also, we're going to be starting our next songwriting challenge. Neil, what's happening with that?
So for those of you who've been following us, last year we did our first songwriting challenge, which was a great success. And we each wrote a song based on a prompt that we got from our listeners. This year, we're going to be doing a songwriting challenge based on an episode that we did a few months back about songs that never change their chord progression. So songs that just have one chord progression all the way through. And so over the course of November and December, the three of us, Mike, Phil, and myself, will write a song that has a never-changing chord progression. And
a song each. We're not all going to write the one song.
Yeah, we'll each
three
write a
different
song,
songs.
and then in January, we'll have an episode of the show where we share our songs. And in the meantime, we want to hear from our listeners as well. We put the prompt out to you guys and gals. Write a song where the chord progression never changes, and send it our way. Send it to feedback@songtalk.ca. And then, sometime in the winter, we'll do an episode where we feature some of our listeners' songs. Follow that songwriting challenge and see what you guys came up with. Because we just had a show, was it last week or the week before, where we showcased some of our listeners' songs, and we really appreciate getting them. And
yeah, they're awesome.
You guys do amazing work, so we want to hear more.
Yeah, and it's a fun thing. You can actually do a lot without actually changing the chord progression, but still have different melodies.
It is a challenge, and having restrictions is sometimes the best thing to unlock creativity.
Absolutely,
that's true.
It would be cheating because it's already written and recorded. But there is a song of mine that whether it's included in this eventually or not, there's a song already out there on my latest band EP called "A Question for You." And it is 3.5 minutes and is just A, D, C, G, all major chords, front to back. The only thing that
Wow.
changes is that the chords drop and there's a guitar solo. That's literally it.
Oh.
I don't know that anyone has ever noticed or like come back to me and said, "Hey, that song isn't going anywhere. It's all the same."
Well,
Because
that's
we did what we could to trick them.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, it's already out there. So I laughed when you said that.
yeah, when we did the show on songs that never changed the chord progression, I personally was surprised. I think the other guys were too. That certain songs we thought, because they had such uplifting choruses, we thought there was a chord change, but there wasn't.
For
It's the
sure.
same chord progression. And there's
No.
there's more songs out there than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, hit songs,
Hit songs,
not
yeah.
just obscure
Yeah.
album cuts, but singles. And Caleb, it would count because the point of the show is not just to be new, but to give us something to talk about. So we could
Some
we could talk
reference.
about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That for sure.
So
So it'd
Caleb,
be nice to inspire and encourage people. New songs are good too. So
I will
if
send
they're
you guys a link of
rough
that.
or raw,
That's very
Dave,
funny.
that would be
Awesome.
great.
So Caleb, you write a lot of stuff. I mean, how do you generate your ideas? Do you ever set yourself up certain kind of technical challenges, or do you just get inspiration and go? Or what's your process like these days?
So the majority of my time lately is just trying to wrap up and finish ongoing projects, which Coast to Coast is one of those. I've been working on it since 2015 when I was out in Vancouver. So a lot of my time now is just like I have the songs started or halfway done or almost finished, and I'm doing the studio work. What I did with this latest single that we're going to end up talking about, but I'll just segue, is it actually was a challenge to myself, kind of given by someone else I was talking to who said, I want to know what you can do if you can write a song and send me a full recording of a full studio production of that song in 48 hours.
Oh,
And I was
holy smokes.
scared. I was scared by the challenge. I was actually quite nervous to do it, but I, on a Saturday night, got the phone call, and by Tuesday, had something finished.
That's great.
So it was very interesting. And usually it's like it's giving yourself that challenge that produces something different than you would have just written on your own accord, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it in the past. Like sometimes, when the lightning strikes and all the things that people say happen, sometimes that does happen, but sometimes of course it doesn't. And you're looking to find a way to write something or what to write about. And I have before said, okay, I have a friend's wedding coming up. I'm going to write a song for their wedding. And I only have 2 weeks to do it, and something falls into place. And I usually find that actually turns out to be a great experience because you're satisfied with the accomplishment of facing the challenge, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it like Mike was saying, like it's always those, it's the rules and the constriction of parameters that actually kind of force you to be creative. Because when you're left with limitless options, it's kind of hard to do something.
Yeah.
Especially if you're really talented, you can go anywhere, so the limitations help you stay in a lane or help you. And sometimes it's easier, I think, to know if you've achieved something, if you've got nice ways to measure it.
So Caleb, you were actually challenged to write a song in 48 hours, any song, correct? Like the only limitation was the deadline.
Yeah. Basically, like send me something soon. Can you send me something by Tuesday?
So did you first like panic and be like, whoa, what am I gonna do? I would.
Yeah, I mean,
I would.
Was it a new song or was it a challenge to produce, like record and produce it?
No, something brand new, like that wasn't even written, and then
right
also
from scratch. Wow.
and also produce it in the studio. So the timing was serendipitous, I guess. Where the next morning, so it was Sunday that I wrote the song, Tuesday that I recorded and finished it and posted it somewhat privately on SoundCloud and shared it. So it basically was on Sunday. I realized that I actually did have something to write about. It turned out to be an anniversary of my Oma's passing, my dad's mom, my grandmother, she had passed 10 years to the day before that, on August 2nd in 2010. And that when that happened in my life, I was 20 years old. I actually turned that moment into recording an album. So it was a folk album called Season. That's under the Sun Harmonic, so you can go and Google. It's on the internet. And so I recorded that album in the days after she had passed, and I'd written all that material in the kind of month or two before. What instrument am I going to write it on? Guitar or piano? I just sat down at the piano and kind of just plunked out the chords that I would use, and tried to write all the lyrics in that sitting. I think there was one line maybe that I had left, but for the most part wrote all of it in that sitting in that day. And then on the Monday, just kind of made sure, okay, I'm happy with it. Everything's ready to go. And then Tuesday morning, got a coffee and got the studio set up with all my instruments set up and ready to go by 8 a.m. and recorded the piano first, and then just kept layering instruments on top of instruments until by about 5 or 6, I had something that I felt, okay, I could keep adding layers and keep working on it. But this is at least like portraying the truth of the song. So I could stop there. And also, like, this is the deadline. I have to send something soon. So it was kind of the time restraint more than anything was what led it to kind of be exactly what it is. So.
Wow. Yeah, it's certainly a great song, and it certainly doesn't feel rushed, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the tempo, even, like, I decided on a tempo that wasn't too fast that the song wouldn't be true to itself, but yeah, that like took its time to explain. Everything lined up as much as it could, and I couldn't go back and change it or fix it really, unless I wanted to cheat on the rules. So
yeah,
or you do a version 2 later on sometime.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a listen to it.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
All right. And do you want to talk anything more about the writing or the structure of the song?
Or anything we should listen for? Or
we should listen for in particular?
An interesting point, I guess, because of the time restraint. I hadn't written a bridge vocally. I decided, okay, I'm going to do an instrumental bridge. Mm-hmm. And what I thought was going to end up being a bit of a issue or a mistake turned into kind of my favorite part of the song, which is that I decided to strip everything down just to the piano, and I would do a piano solo instead of anything else coming in. And so I decided, okay, that it's a big chorus, small verse, big chorus, small verse, big chorus, and then the bridge would just strip right down to piano, and I would just improvise a piano solo. So that's what it is. It's front to back. The bridge really is just like, I think I did a couple takes, maybe 3, 4, 5 takes, and eventually got one that I was like, okay, I'm happy with that. And the only thing that I changed to make it interesting was the rhythm. So instead of a downbeat kind of rhythm that the rest of the song is, all of a sudden I put a bit of a swing into the way that I was playing the piano. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to the downbeat again for the last chorus. And I decided that on a whim, and I kind of thought in the moment, this really isn't interesting. But it was that like split-second decision that actually ended up being kind of my favorite part of the whole process, because it was so unexpected. It wasn't not calculated at all. I really just kind of improvised, and that's what's beautiful about letting yourself do that, is that it ends up being something that you would have never ever chosen to do if you had all the time in the world to do it. So yeah, just listen to that, the way that everything shifts a little bit, the rhythm. And other than that, it really is just self-explanatory, I guess.
All right.
Let's take a listen.
How to say hello without a telephone, without a way to reach you anymore, to go back in time would be along the lines of a dream I've had.
Love that last chord. It is so
Very
tasty.
nice.
Beautiful.
I usually end a song, whether or not it's jazzy, on some sort of seventh or ninth. For I don't know for what reason. I just it's what I gravitate to do.
Jazz hands.
Yeah, pretty much.
Six are always fun if you want to sound like the Beatles. They end on six very often.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
I mean
love-
the bridge of that song. I'm trying to remember the first time I heard it, and I didn't find it jarring, but it's like, oh, that's a neat twist because it's still speaking the same language, but it's like a slight difference thing. But the thing that surprised me about it actually is instrumental bridge. Like that shouldn't be surprising, but fact is, you don't hear that much anymore.
Yeah.
It's a very rare
exactly.
thing these days. I think about like anything that I listen to these days is usually lyric, and if there's a bridge, it's a lyrical lyric or a lyrical bridge,
Sure.
and then they go
For
back.
sure.
Right? It's like, I can't remember the last time I heard an instrumental solo bridge.
For sure.
And what's
Well,
interesting
it's vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you say, it does swing a bit. It picks up the pace as it drops down the instrument, so it gets softer and quieter, but it doesn't lose energy, and it's still moving forward. It's a really neat bridge. It's an atypical way to do it. I think that's very good. Something that our listeners can learn from, I'm sure.
I love the little guitar tags between like the guitar tag at the intro and in between the verse and the chorus.
Yeah, like and they harmonize. Some of them harmonize. Some of them are just based on the piano melody, but some of them I came up with just to fill the space. Before the first chorus and then before the second chorus was just the simple trick of, okay, do one little round before the first chorus. Before the second chorus, just make it double the time and put something else in. So I went to a new chord and then a longer little guitar lick before it too. And it was a quick decision, but I think it helps transition between the two from verse to chorus. And
you played all the instruments?
Yes. Yeah. One of the things that I tend to do on some songs more than others is try and change the expected chord that's given by the key. So it's in C major, and at the beginning of the verse it goes from C into E minor, D minor, and eventually goes back to E and D again, but they're major and then back to C, just to change your idea of the mood of the song. I guess that's really what it does, is throw off your expectation of that chord coming in as a minor, but then it has that major third in there that almost makes you, I don't know, raise an eyebrow and wonder what that new feeling is, new emotion, because you already heard the minor chord 10 seconds before that.
So that's all in the verse.
That's all in the verse. Yeah.
And then where do you go for the chorus then, for the chords?
It actually does go back to the major, E major again. So I'll grab my guitar because it's you said maybe it would end up here. So so really the verse is it is a different key. I always have my guitar half a step down from my punk band days. So it's C, E minor, D minor, C, F, C, D major, E major, A minor. So it does that through the verse, and then in the chorus, just goes from C major, E major, A minor, and then minor. Yeah. So it borrows that, like that E major, the third chord of the scale, being a major chord, really is that, like, it's that suspense of that chord that is undeniable. It's so unexpected. So Once I fell into that, I think that's really where the chorus made the most sense to me, because it
Right.
paired
And
with
did you write it on guitar or did you write it on piano?
on piano. Yeah.
It did sound like a piano written song. I don't know if that
Yeah,
is really
yeah.
such a thing, but
Piano solo.
when that chord, when you brought in the major chords, it sounded very well. I mean, it has a Lennon-esque feel to it, but that big full major chord is really nice when you get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, it's what I love about it. It's such a focused song, and with a lot of your work, there's not a lot of not showing off, but there's some people who do lots. There's lots of embellishment of notes. It's not just la, it's la, la, la and all that, and that gets a bit tiring. And I love your work because it's so focused and kind of pure in a way, and I think it makes it a bit timeless. Because some of those embellishments, I think, may not, as we found out in the 80s, may not age as well as we think they're going to.
Yeah, I'm sure if there was a gated snare on the recording, I'm sure it'd be different.
Speaking of the times where, well, you're speaking of the times we're not in, but speaking of the times that we're in, when I first heard the song and read the lyric, I thought it was about COVID. I thought it was a COVID song because, like, to go back in time, a dream I had, it's about the loss, But I think, saying you wrote it the 10th anniversary of your grandmother passing away. Like you wrote it out in such a way that it's open to different interpretations, but anyone who's lost anything. And
not just a person. Yeah, I think that's true. Like loss of your identity, or the good old days, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's interesting. I had a friend work on a lyric video with me. His name's Oliver, and he told me that while he was working on the lyric video, it actually came at an appropriate time for him because he had lost a friend, and so he said, it's as if you put the song out for me at that time. Like it was just what I needed to hear. I listened to it a lot and used the recording as a way to try and understand what was happening, and that's what's beautiful about never really knowing where the song's going to end up, who's going to hear it, and what they're going to hear in it.
Yeah, and that's the advantage to writing a song that's more emotive and kind of haunting and kind of a little. I wouldn't even say vague, because it is quite specific, but it's not specific about a particular story.
Yeah,
that's true.
I guess when you know what it's about, you go, oh yeah, that's what it's about. But when you don't, it's open to interpretation on a number of levels.
I'll probably still read it as a COVID song.
You go right ahead.
Well, I think I
what's that music mean, Phil?
It means that's all the time we have here on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to the Sun Harmonic. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much, guys.
How do listeners get more of your music?
Where can they find it?
Yeah.
You can go to Spotify.
Are you on the internet anywhere?
That's everyone's Spotify's these days. My stuff isn't on MySpace anymore. There's a Bandcamp page. The sunharmonic.bandcamp.com basically has everything I've ever released, and Spotify has a curated selection of that.
Fantastic. So we want to hear from you, listeners. Send us comments on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to Song Talk Radio, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. Why not check out the YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes? Now that we is all just virtual-like, subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider, and don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter. You can find links to all the podcast, books, and web services we mentioned here on the show on the resources page. And wherever you are in the world, please join us for the next Zoom meeting. Happens once a month. Go to meetup.com, and it's free to attend. Lots of fun. Stop by for the link. Also, a big thanks to Vanessa Vreeland for help behind the scenes of the show, and most of all, we'd like to thank you, the home listener. Neil, how can people get in touch with you? NeilModi.com. And how about you, Michael?
If they send me their credit card numbers, then I'll respond. Or you can just go on Instagram, Proudfit420.
All right, and stop by the website to browse past shows, find out how you can be a guest. Stay safe, everyone, and keep on writing. Good night.
So long.
Stay safe.
Always. It's a really dance.
And scene.
Scene. And we're out.
Good
Great.
stuff.
Yeah, it goes fast.
Another
Yeah,
quick fill.
we're getting into some really interesting stuff too. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I noticed on your site you have a lot of videos too. I'm interested in your strategies and your thoughts behind that. So you'll have to come back now that we've got more questions for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's actually one thing I
have-
want to ask you, Kaleb, about this song. I mean, I guess I'm assuming. I think I know the answer now. It's a single. It's not part of a upcoming album or something, is it?
Yeah, really, because it was kind of a off the cuff. What can you do in 48 hours? All this, I found myself with a recording that I thought would kind of be just a little project, but I thought I could release this. Why not? Like it sounds. I like the way it sounds. So I decided to just release it as is. It's not a part of an album.
Cool.
I am working on actually today I finished the final mix of the first single from my next album, the Coast to Coast record. So that song will be finished very soon and probably released maybe within the next couple weeks. So that's that song really was just kind of like, what am I going to do with it? I don't know. I'll put it out.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah,
Wonderful
it's
song.
great. It is a great stuff. It's interesting thought about, writing, like, people used to have albums were just a collection of singles.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that I think a lot of people now, when they put out an album, they put out an album as a unified musical concept or statement as opposed to just a bunch of singles.
Yeah.
Which is interesting the way people, because I don't know how many people actually listen to albums anymore.
Mhm. I do.
Open.
I don't think that'll ever change for me. I certainly do.
Although it is becoming less and less. Like I
Well,
used to
for
listen
sure.
to albums a lot.
But even on Spotify, because you can just get a playlist of an artist, but I like to hear the songs that are all recorded and made at a time, as opposed to, because otherwise you end up with sort of a greatest hits. I was listening to that Al Green like that, and just some really great early 70s stuff where it's really funky and funny, and then all of a sudden it leapt into some of that crap he did in the 80s. I don't mean the songs were crap, but the production is just horrible.
Yeah.
This really kind of rinky-dink keyboard sound, and I go, no, I just want to go back inside the mind of Al Green or something like this. A great 70s album called that, I think.
I like to try and challenge people to listen to a certain project of mine. Certain projects of mine have like really tried to challenge people to listen to it as an album, like either by connecting the songs so that they literally go into each other and transition into each other, so there isn't really a break, or just in the concept of how it's made. That's why I'm excited about finally finishing this record I'm working on now, is that the whole record was recorded across Canada. So as you listen to it, it starts with me in Vancouver. For 3 songs, I'm in Vancouver Island. And then there's a song called Flying Over Saskatchewan that was recorded in Toronto, which is a very funny kind of upbeat.
Because that's what you do when you reach Saskatchewan.
I wrote it on the plane. I wrote the melody in my head and wrote the lyrics on the plane and recorded it in Toronto. And then it moves to 2 songs from Ottawa, a song from Montreal, and then 3 songs in Halifax. So as you listen to the album front to back, I'm moving across Canada.
Nice.
It worked, and it could have crashed and burned. It almost did. Like there was technical difficulty along the way with certain studios, and so it's like the whole plan was barely holding on, but it's going to come together.
It sounds like a great story, actually. That would be an interesting, to write up on your website or something, because it's.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
Yeah,
that's
to
what
tell
people,
the tale of the making of it. Yeah,
for sure. And that's what people say, right? You want to have some sort of story behind. Music tells a story, but also have like a story behind the music, something that you can share with people, because storytelling is an important part of it as well, not just the musicality of it, but there's something like folk tradition, I guess, that keeps that rooted.
Like it's always a good question, like what's the narrative, what's the idea outside of the music, outside
Yeah.
of the notes, the chords, the melodies, even the lyrics, what's the thing driving this? Like, what's the
Yeah.
thesis?
Especially
Yeah,
if
not-
there are interesting stories behind it. Sometimes there aren't, but this journey across Canada and recording in different studios, I mean, like that's very interesting. I think I'm curious, to hear the songs knowing that,
Mhm.
can I tell
Yeah.
one studio from the other, or,
You,
that sort of
you,
stuff is
you can.
interesting.
I mean, I can for sure. It's like the guitars sound different. Even certain songs have instruments in them only because that instrument was in that studio.
Right.
There's a little toy piano that's on the song that I'll be releasing soon. That little toy piano was in the studio in Ottawa, and I've never come across one since. But it was there, and I recorded it, and now it comes back with me to Toronto. So there's little things like that are pretty amazing. The studio that I went to in Halifax is my favorite I've ever been to in my life. It's called Sonic Temple, and it was an attic in downtown Halifax that was like from the 1800s. So it's just brick and old wooden beams, and there was a grand piano up there that was just incredible. So that grand piano was on the recordings, and there's certain things about it that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't done the travel and gone to these studios. And that really was what I was trying to get, was just like, can I make magic happen in these studios after traveling for like 3 days to get there? Can I walk into the studio and then do something special,
Yeah.
Wow,
When do you
that's
hope to release it?
I'm going to be finishing it in the next couple weeks, probably in the next 2 weeks or so. I think I'll get to the point where I'm mixing instead of recording, and so it'll be finished in the next month or so, and then I'll start releasing one song at a time. I'm thinking probably mid to late next year, maybe summer or so of next year, just to take my time getting there.
Well,
I want to do
that
it
would be a
right.
good reason to have you back, because
Definitely.
I'd like to
Yeah.
hear the songs and hear the stories. So
Sure. Well, there will be a song out. There will be a song out in probably 2 to 3 weeks. The first song, and then another song in the spring. So yeah, I'd love to tell more stories. There's lots of them.
good.
Interesting.
Cool. Yeah. look
Very
forward to it.
cool. Well, thanks for coming on. It was an amazing
Yeah.
show. And,
Very nice
Yeah,
to meet
thanks,
you.
guys.
Always
I
great
appreciate
stuff.
it very much.
Yeah. Great to see you again, Caleb.
Yeah, you too. You too.
And we'll send you an email when when the show goes live.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'll be notified.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks so much, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
All right.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Okay,
Good night, all.
See you guys. Bye.